Allah says in the Quran, whoever kills an innocent human being, it shall be as if he has killed all mankind. And whoever saves the life of one, it shall be as if he had saved the life of all mankind. I bet you've heard this a lot. Even Obama once quoted this in a speech trying to show how peaceful and loving the Quran is. But there's a problem. This is actually not the verse in the Quran. A lot of people misquote the Quran. And it gets actually even worse once you go to the next verse. So the verse that everybody quotes from the Quran, trying to pretend like Islam is a peaceful and loving religion, this verse is chapter 5, verse 32 of the Quran. And this is actually the actual verse. Pay attention to the parts that they try to leave out. And then when I go to the next verse, things get a lot more interesting. So this is the actual verse. We decreed upon the children of Israel, meaning the Jews, this part was left out, that whoever kills a soul, unless for a soul or for corruption done in the land, it is as if he had slain mankind entirely. And whoever saves one, it is as if he had saved mankind entirely. So notice two important differences that they usually leave out. Obama also, when he on his speech, when he was trying to pretend like Islam is a beautiful, loving religion, he left out the part that this was not a message to Muslim. This was, according to the Quran, this was a commandment for the Jews, for the children of Israel. And also, there were some exceptions, especially the part that says, unless for those who spread corruption in the land. And the Quranic and Islamic definition of people who spread corruption in the land are people like me or the rest of the staff of the ACA. So this does not apply to us. We are okay to kill. But this, again, this commandment was for the Jews. If you actually go to the next verse, every time somebody reads this verse to you to try to pretend that Islam is a loving religion, ask them this. What verse is that? And then they will say, if they know the verse, 532. And ask them, do you know the verse after? If they know the verse after, tell them, why are you being so dishonest? Why are you taking this out of context? And if they don't, then show them the next verse, because this is the next verse. Remember, this is a verse people give you to show that Islam is not violent. And the verse right after it says this. Indeed, the penalty for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive upon earth to cause corruption, again, people like us, according to Islam, or the rest of the staff of the ACA, is none but that they be killed or crucified, or that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides, or that they be exiled from the land. So remember, the verse after, the verse that Muslims or people who try to defend Islam quote to you, trying to say that Islam does not endorse killing, the very verse after is telling you to kill and crucify people. When Muslims or other people who try to defend religion keep telling you that you are taking things out of context, you have to tell them, no, the people who are defending religion, the people who are defending Islam, they are taking it out of context. We are reading the entirety of the context. And we know every time you see something beautiful about Islam, tell them, you're taking that out of context. And you know how I know that you're taking that out of context? Because the entirety of Islam, not just parts of Islam, the entirety of Islam is insane and barbaric. So if there's anything that sounds beautiful and good about Islam, it must be being taken out of context, because I have looked everywhere in Islam. There's not a single beautiful thing. There's not a single loving thing about Islam. I dare you to call in. I dare you to call in and tell me if there's anything worth defending about this barbaric, disgusting religion. But you won't, because you're a coward, and you know that you would be humiliated in front of all the people here. You know that this religion is not defendable. But prove me wrong. Call in, because the show is starting right now.
Hello, everyone. Today is March 31st, 2024. And I'm your host, Jim Barrows. Joining me today is Armin, Hey, how's it going, Armin?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I think it's interesting that both Islam and Christianity both have horrible things in them that their proponents just want to politely ignore, which is just ridiculous to me. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting that both do that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And it's so obvious too. Like they take us for fools. Like if you read the Quran and if you read the Bible or if the Old Testament or the New Testament, any sane person can see how barbaric and violent it is. And the gymnastic arguments people from all religions try to come up, and this I could tell this about Hinduism too. It's not just Abrahamic religions. The amount of gymnastic arguments that like it's black and white. It's so obvious. I don't know how this sells. I don't understand how people could read this verses that is obviously telling you to beat your wife, verses that is obviously in Christianity telling you that women should not be able to be in charge of everything or to speak out. And you're trying. There's no way anybody could justify this. But how do so many people? How many? Jim, you tell me this. How so many people that seem to be reasonable in other parts of their lives get so easily convinced by these arguments that these are not as bad as they are so obviously are? I never get that.
Well, you're interpreting a piece of literature, and there is no right way to interpret literature, right? You think about people interpreting Moby Dick or The Hobbit or even C.S. Lewis's books, which are arguably very Christianity-oriented. And you can interpret it however you want. And as long as it's open to interpretation and there's no objective way to interpret it, then you can basically make it say anything you want.
How is it open to it? How is a verse that is telling me to beat your wife if you fear disobedience? How is that open for interpretation?
I have no idea how they do it. It's pretty clear, but how many of them actually read it, right? I mean, right. Or they're the metaphorical, right? But yeah, if you read it as is and you take it, I think atheists take the Bible more literally than most Christians do, because we're at least willing to acknowledge that there's contradictions here that you can't make sense of, and yet Christians and Islamists will also, will say, "Oh no, this is how you reconcile that." Well, all right, but now you're not taking the book literally, right? You can't take any of them literally. There's too many contradictions, so you pick and choose. Yeah. It's a multiple choice, multiple guess. But anyway, the Atheist Experience, we're a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Starting off with our question of the week, our Share Your Experience question of the week. Last week's results of the question of the week are, we asked, why did God wipe out all the dinosaurs? And the number 3 answer from Casey, I think that's how you pronounce that. God killed all the dinosaurs because he knew there wouldn't be room for all of them in the ark. At number 2, Medallion 1390 said, God wiped out the dinosaurs because they didn't believe in the velociraptor. Yeah, I could see that. The velociraptors are definitely a thing. And the laser-eyed velociraptors are also a really cool thing too. Anybody who's watched Kung Fury. Number 1 by Tech Barrier. God wiped out the dinosaurs because he knew chicken nuggets would have to be shaped like something. I heard something that says one of the reasons why everything tastes like chicken is because it's not that everything tastes like chicken, it's that everything tastes like dinosaur. Because they're all have dinosaurs that they're, yeah.
That's so, but okay.
Yeah. Huh. So, but yeah, dino nuggies are definitely a thing, and kids will eat them just because they're shaped like dinosaurs. So that's kind of cool. The prompt for this week: why is Satan competing for God's followers? Oh no! I mean, it is kind of a question, right? What is it about souls that makes God want them and Satan want them? Are they little power sources that they get to use for their magic, or what? What do you think,
I would
Armin?
I like to pretend like the devil was the first humanist and he's just trying to save us from, being slaves. Or maybe we could say that they were making a bet. God was betting that humans are gullible and they would just believe anything you tell them, and the devil had more faith in us and thought like no, and they made a bet and they could see who would be able to get more followers that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see those two making that kind of a bet. Yeah, gambling
Yeah.
at the heart of it. Yeah, gambling with
Gambling,
their
yes.
lives. That sounds about good. Par for the course, right?
I mean, it's not out of character. In the Old Testament, we had this, right?
Yeah.
The devil and God, they made the exact same gamble in the Old Testament. So this could be the whole thing.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested to see what some of these answers are going to be. Remember, answer in the comments, not in chat. So, Armin, you ready for our first call?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I think we're going to take Ameen, pronouns are he, him, who says that he is contemplating reasons to come out as an atheist to his parents, to his Muslim parents, and would like our feedback. Go ahead, Ameen.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Hey, Jim. Hey, Armin. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for calling.
Awesome. Jim, I'd be very surprised if you recognize the sound of my voice. But I basically called in about a year ago. I was telling the call screener, I talked with you and Secular Rarity about a year ago, and I had somewhat similar concerns about should I come out, should I just stay quiet? We had a really good conversation, and you were talking about giving your experience, you said you haven't come out to your parents, and you said that it would cause more problems than the whole situation is worth. And at that time, I definitely identified with that. But nowadays, this whole idea keeps coming back. Maybe I should, because it keeps just gnawing away at my mind, and I keep thinking maybe it would be a good idea to do so. And a lot has changed from the last time we talked till now. Last time we talked, I went under the surname Unbeliever, but now I'm using my real name, Ameen. And the reason for that is, I'm sure Armin can definitely confirm that for us here, that Ameen literally in Arabic means trustworthy. And my parents, they never failed to give me that, Ameen, live up to your name, all the time. And now that in conjunction with the fact that I've slowly started to accumulate some reasons for maybe I should just come out and be honest with them, despite the fact that my parents are so very, very religious. So yeah, I was just hoping to discuss that with you guys today.
Okay.
Well, I don't think my position has changed much, because I'm still not out to my parents, and it's still, there's no good way to do that, and would honestly probably end my relationship with my parents. And my atheism isn't strong enough to warrant that, or strong enough is probably not the right word for it. Not important to me enough to warrant that. But Armin, this is probably a little bit closer to home for you, because you've actually, I believe, have you come out to your parents?
Oh yeah. For me, it was different from most ex-Muslims because my parents were very liberal, and when I was a Muslim, I was very an annoying Muslim. I was kind of like a religious morality police at home, annoying my parents. So when I became an atheist, I was more religious than them. They were didn't care about religion, and I used to bother them about it. And when I became an atheist, they were so happy. They said, "Oh, thank God." So my experience is different from most ex-Muslims. But I mean, I just wonder, do you mind me if I ask you, what are the main two costs with you coming out to your parents, and what are the main two benefits in your mind, given your situation? If we want to do a cost-benefit analysis, can you identify the two main costs associated with you coming out and the two main benefits of it?
Sure. To start, the two main costs would be, upsetting my parents, first of all. I know that just kind of sidetrack here. My mom especially, she's very she's probably the most religious person I've ever known in my entire life, and she also has like I think that she wouldn't take it well. Let's just put it that way. That's probably the first cost. The second cost is that
Would she wait before you move on? Do you think at some point she will get over it? Like, would she get very upset at the beginning, and at some point she will get over it, or would this be? Do you think this would be a prolonged
part of
tension?
me wants to say yes. I'm almost certain that eventually she would live with it.
Okay.
Because I don't think that, like, because I know that she's been slowly, she and my dad, they've both been kind of, mellowing out over the years. Despite the fact that they still, like, every now and then call me like, hey, I mean, are you keeping up with your prayers? Are you fasting and all that? And I have to constantly like lie to them and be like, yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm keeping up with all that. So yeah, to answer your question, I think eventually she would slowly but surely get over it.
Okay, so what's the second cost? Let's go through these faster.
Sure. The second cost was I'm trying to think here. I think that the second cost would be that maybe there's also that chance, and I have to, explore all options here, or explore all possibilities here. But I think that the other cost is that they probably would not leave it alone, and they would just constantly try to, like, call me.
Annoying.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay, the annoying factor. Okay, they will annoy you. Okay, so benefits 1 and 2.
Sure. Benefits, I would say that, well, first of all, peace of mind, 100% is what I strive for. I want to do, like, what my parents, like, in that sense of asking me, like, hey, live up to your name, be honest, and all that, and I do strive for that. In most aspects of my life, I try to.
Okay, so you see yourself as an honest person, and you think that this doesn't fit your character when you're lying, like you're not being yourself, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, got it. And is there any other benefit?
And the benefit is, that we are still a family. That I and my siblings and my parents were all, like, we become closer. That's what I strive for. Like, I want to be myself, not have to constantly, like, lie about, and not constantly, like, be quiet around them. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So by being yourself, even if they're upset with you, because you're yourself, you feel closer to them because you're not in front of them with a mask all the time, right?
Yes. That's how I feel right now. Like, I always, like, whenever they call and talk to me, like, they do. I always feel like no matter what, and I think I mentioned this last time to both Jim and Secularity last year, is that I always feel like I have to put on a mask. I always have to constantly masquerade. And it's
so given these costs and benefits, do you think the benefits outweigh the costs, or the costs outweigh the benefits?
I think the benefits would just by a hair's margin. I think it would outweigh the cost. I think.
Okay, well, there's your answer.
Really
okay, well, there's your answer. Have you thought about doing it gradually instead of just coming out as an atheist? Like, hey, mom, dad, I'm an atheist. How about, like, maybe saying, like, you know what, I'm not praying, or, like, maybe talking to them about, would you love me if I was skeptical about my religion? Would you still love me? Like, just saying that, how they would take it, and, saying, not saying that you're an atheist, but maybe saying this Ramadan I didn't fast at all, or maybe not saying that you're an atheist, but saying that you're missing your prayers, and just gradually go for the ex-Muslim atheist one. Do you think that's a better option?
Yeah, I you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, Armin, because I am kind of sort of doing that. Like, so the last time I called into the show, I was calling you guys from the state of Illinois, and obviously I've moved since then. While I was on my one-way road trip, I would like, send them pictures of, hey, look at this awesome forest and mountainside and all that. I'd be taking pictures on my road trip, and I would just be like, oh wow, this is so amazing. This is just a testament to, how beautiful our planet is and how beautiful nature is and all that stuff. And of course, without fail, it was either my mom or my dad would say something like, oh yeah, it's alhamdulillah, it's so beautiful. It's a testament to God's work. And I'm just like, I just don't respond after that. But like, I've been slowly, so to answer that, I've been slowly but surely trying to like show them that like, I care more about like things that can be demonstrated to be true, like, science, nature, evolution, stuff like that. I know that I do. I've started to watch a lot of Forrest Falkai's channel in regards to evolution and science and all of that and biology.
Right.
So I do like. I've been slowly but surely like showing them that side of myself. But of course, there are days when like I just have to kind of shut up and just like take it and just put on my mask, as I was saying earlier.
So. Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't know. Every person's situation is different, but what I've noticed, what works with a lot more people, is not to get into arguments. Go with the love angle, right? The more you're hinting at them, you need to also replace it with something that they could be happy about. You can't just give them something to be worried about. The more you're hinting to them that you might not be as religious, the more you need to express love to them, the more you need to impress them with how much of a good boy you're being, how much of a good son you're being, how much you're expressing love and enjoyment of being around them. Your mother needs to feel like, oh, the more atheistic you're becoming, the more loving, like you need to kind of create this correlation in their mind that your atheism is somehow correlated to how much you're expressing love with them. Okay. So, but don't get it. I think it's a bad idea to get into arguments with them to why they're wrong or you're good. You just need to use I think the best idea is to just show them that you're still worthy of their love, even if you're wrong. Let's say they're right and you're wrong, but you're still worthy of their love.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with all that. It's just, I'm not trying to like, that's not my goal. I don't want to get into an argument unless I don't really have any other option and I'm like back into a corner. I think that, even though like I am more or less preparing for that in case that does happen, but
right.
I do agree with you in that, I should at least, like if I tell them something about nature, something about biology, something about science or anything like that, we always like end our calls with like, love you, love you, assalamu alaikum, all that. So I try my best to do that. I agree with you on that.
If it's a habit to say I love you, I think you should do something, because if it's a habit, sometimes it becomes like it needs to be something extra. It needs to be something that shows that this is different from just the love you I say at the end of the call, right? Like maybe you call just to say how much you appreciate your mom, like that. There needs to be something like your mom, like, oh, what, wow, like what was that? Something like that. Not like talking about other things and then just ending it with it. Yeah, there's something to impress, something that is not normal, something that will just really impress, something that will make her cry. Right? Try to get a tear out of her. Like it's something very happy. Make her happy. If you make her happy, if you keep making her happy, because a mother, most mothers really want their children's love, like they really want that. And if you could fill that like void, if you are making them nervous about something, but you fill it with something else, the transition might be a lot easier. But anyways, I'm talking so much, Jim.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important because the two of you are closer in your experiences than Ameen and I are, because Christian, Muslim, there's cultural differences here as well, not just religious differences, but cultural differences between me and Ameen and Armin and Armin, you and Ameen. So I think, but I just to be clear, I don't wear a mask around my parents at all. When they ask me if I go to church, I say no. If they ask me if I've been to confession lately, I say no. When they ask me these questions, I just say no. The arguments they have come to understand that I'm not going to go if I don't want to. By the same token, when my uncle died a couple of years ago, I went to Mass and I went to the funeral and I did all the religious things with them. And I didn't do it because I believed in any of those things. I did it because it showed support for my cousins and what they were going through. I was there to support my family. And so there can be kind of some differences there. But, you know, you don't necessarily need to wear a mask to, you know, at the same time, right? And still be truthful and still not have to tell them. You can just take the mask off. And I think what Armin was suggesting was take the mask off gradually. Don't do it all at once, right? Play a little bit of peekaboo with them and get them used to the idea. It's the idea of boiling a frog, right? Just slowly turn the heat up on the frog and the frog won't jump out. Now, it's not necessarily really true, but you get the idea of kind of what we're talking about, I think. Don't do it all at once. Don't make it a big scary thing, right? Because if you scare them, then they're going to react scared.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Definitely agree with that. I did want to mention or offer a addition to what you were saying, Armin, earlier about just say something nice and gradual. Just to go on a quick tangent here. I called my mom on my birthday, or on her birthday, excuse me. And I said said happy birthday and all that. I did do what more or less what you were saying earlier. I told her, Mom, you are the reason like I am in the career that I am in. And I could tell just by listening to her, her response that she was, genuinely, grateful and thankful for that. Little things like that. I definitely agree that little things like that would definitely go a long way.
Yeah. And do it immediately after, when your parents say, have you been praying every day like you're supposed to? And you say no, immediately bring it back to something like that, right? And redirect the conversation from whatever it's going to be. And that may help as well, at least distract them for a little bit. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, your parents better than we do. So.
Try.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. And, as long as you're trying the best, as long as you're trying to, you sound like a good boy. You sound like you love your mother and you're being a good son to her and your parents. And, any parents should be proud to have you because you want to be a good son to them and you want to be true to yourself. So whatever the outcome, we could only just do the best, what we think. We evaluate everything. We try to do the best, and the results just whatever happens, we can't control what happens. We can only control what we can do, right? And as long as you did that, you should be happy with yourself, whatever the results are.
Absolutely. And it's the main thing is that they always remind me that like they taught me to be honest. They want me to value honesty and truth and all that stuff. And if I ever do tell them, whenever I do tell them, excuse me, it's I definitely want to make sure that I touch on those points. And I even started like writing a potential letter that I might send to them at some point, but that's going to be way down the road. I have things like going on in my life, in my family's life that need to be addressed first, and then I'll, have to consider that. So.
Nice. Well, good luck with that. I hope it works out.
Good luck. Let us know how it goes.
Yes.
For sure. Oh, by the way, one more thing, Armin, before you guys hang up on me. Just came in today. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. This just came in the mail today. I'm holding a copy of your book, Why There Is No God. Simple responses to 20 arguments for the existence.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm really excited to open it up and start reading.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know once you finish. I hope you call in and let me know if it was any good.
For sure, I'll definitely do that.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you.
Right.
That's awesome.
Thanks for the call, Ameen.
Yeah, for sure. Take care.
Oops, I accidentally cut him off. My apologies.
That's okay.
So
That must be difficult, Armin and Amin. Was that, Jim? Was that difficult to manage with like Armin and Amin at the same time? Like I don't know.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It's two words. Two words I'm not used to putting together. It's like, wait a minute. So typical American with foreign words, right? Oh, yeah.
Foreigners are just as bad with American names. So
I would assume so. And English is supposed to be the hardest language to learn, so you're kind of doubly cursed with that, I guess, if you're learning English as a second language. So, yeah.
I think the hardest languages are Japanese and Arabic. That's what I heard.
You think? Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried to learn either one of those, and I speak English. Well, I speak American fluently, so the English might disagree with me, my speaking English. But anyway, for those guys, if you want to do something free to help and support us, you can always like that video, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, make a couple of comments below on your favorite caller or your favorite host, or just to say hi. We sometimes do read those. I try to read quite a few of them, at least a day or two after the show. And if you want more of us, and you wish there was this way to get us all the time, well, we've got you covered. We have two 24/7 live streams. AXP TV delivers a constant stream of shows, clips, and specials from the over 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience, and now Heathen TV provide you with clips from Talk Heathen. So you can watch or listen to your favorite host, discover some new hosts you've never heard of. Some of our old hosts, some of our old stuff is really, really good too. And so you can hit that at tiny.cc/AXPTV and tiny.cc/HeathenTV to join in on all of that fun. Next week, in honor of the eclipse, all of our live shows we broadcast from the Free Thought Library in Austin, Texas. On Friday, April 5th, we'll be doing The Truth Wanted in the studio. And on Sunday, April 7th, Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience will be live in studio. If you're able to, please make sure to stop by and watch one or more of the shows, since in some people's opinion, this might be our last chance to do shows before the end of the world. Chances are they're wrong, but do you want to risk it, folks? I mean, come on, just in case, come on down. And honestly, no matter how much you love these shows that we do that are pre-recorded, the live show with a studio audience is absolutely the best way to watch the show. I am very, very opinionated on this one, and just really, it is the best way. You've got the main show where you can actually see us, see the host live and in person, see all the stuff going on behind the scenes. Right there in the main room of the library, and we got another little room off to the side where if you like yelling at the TV and yelling at callers and just generally making a ruckus, well, you can do that with your friends. I do that. People are doing the same thing with you, Arm, make a ruckus, yelling and having conversations about the callers. It's an absolutely wonderful time. And it's one of the few places where as atheists, you can let your hair down and be whoever you want to be and nobody will care. Because we're all in the same boat together. So it's a really, really good time. So please, if you have the opportunity, jam up our parking lot, overcrowd us and overflow our building. We'd love to have you and see you. Make a trip. It's worth it. Austin is wonderful as well. So you get to see some of Austin, some of the other places there. Austin's that big, bright blue dot in the middle of the great big red. So, whoops, I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, I want to send a big thank you out to the crew who put this show together every week. You know, these guys are awesome. They're the ones who allow us to just sit here and flap our gums while they do all the hard work of keeping this show up and running. And of course, we have two folks, Justin and I'm drawing a blank. I'm having a senior moment. Who are answering the other person who answer all of our emails, and our emails are sometimes horrifying. And I forgot to bring an email up. I'm going to read you guys some of what we get. It is truly horrifying, and they also put up with all your wonderful comments. And if you ask a host something specific, they'll forward it on to us, and we will answer. But all of our email is answered by volunteers. So please be nice to our volunteers. And I think we're ready for our next call. What do you think?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's see what we got here. You know what? Here's another one for you, Armin. I think we're going to take Andrew in Florida, who says that Armin failed to debunk Mohammed Hijab's slippery slope argument about incest. Welcome to the show,
Okay.
Andrew.
Greetings, gentlemen.
So you say that Armin failed to debunk the slippery slope argument.
Yeah. Because
So what's the argument, and how did Armin fail to debunk it?
yeah, there's a figure called Muhammad Hijab, and Armin was responding to him, and Muhammad Hijab was saying, okay, if you allow LGBT and sexual promiscuity to run rampant without restrictions, then basically you're allowing for incest. Because the atheist argument is, if it doesn't cause harm, then it's okay. So if it doesn't cause harm, then it allows for incest, because you can have incest without causing harm, just don't have a baby. So, and then that was basically.
What was my argument?
Oh no. And then I remember Armin saying, well, no, because incest has the potential to cause harm. So incest would not be allowed in this atheist society, secular humanist society. But with that reasoning, like, just regular sex can cause harm, because there's STDs, there's emotional abuse in relationships. So I don't see how Armin really debunked that slippery slope. Regular natural relationships can cause harm too. So why wouldn't incest be allowed if it doesn't cause harm?
It's not about just causing harm. It's about how likely it is that they cause harm, correct? And also, do you remember what harm? So, for example, let's say we have incest without the possibility of children being born, right? For example, between two adult sisters, right? So, what is the harm that I introduced? Because we try to remove all the potential harms, right? So usually when people think about why, if we are trying to look at the harm principle and not allow something because it's harmful to the individuals or society, that's because we don't look at the disgust factor, we don't look at revelation, we don't look at religion, we don't look at tradition. We're just trying to reduce harm. When it comes to LGBT, the harm, there's not that much harm. We're actually introducing a lot of harm if we ban LGBT relationships, and we're not removing, by allowing it, there's not that much harm that you could show us that will make sense for us to ban LGBT relationships. When it comes to incest, people say the first thing that people comes to their mind is children, genetical, diseases and stuff like that. And people then go like, okay, what about if we incest between two adult sisters or two adult brothers? They can't have children. And then what is the harm that I introduce in that discussion? What is the harm that I introduce as something that the reason why we don't allow incest? The harm that will make us want to avoid incest without even the possibility of having children? You watched the argument. What was the harm? Do you know my argument?
The harm I saw was that possibly children, from what I remember, that you can cause children and inbreeding, so it will be harmful because the children will come out with severe problems.
How could two sisters have children?
Oh, right, two sisters cannot have children.
Right. So that was not the only harm that I touched on. If you actually watched the debate, the discussion that I had, I didn't say just children.
Okay.
There was something else that I introduced.
Okay. I don't.
What was it? Do you know? Okay, so
I don't remember.
So you don't. So you're saying. So you say I failed, but you don't know what I. What I even said. So how could you know that I failed if you don't know what I even said?
Good point.
Okay. Well, maybe I failed. Maybe I did fail, but now I will tell you. Maybe now you can tell me where I failed. I introduced this idea of power dynamics, right? If we allow incest, there's this thing called power dynamics. The reason why we don't allow incest, even when there are no children involved, is the same reason why we don't allow sexual relationship between employers and employees in some situations, or university professors and their students, right? Because we understand that in this environment, because we don't just want consent. We want informed consent that is not being done under pressure. And there are certain situations that you could find exceptions are like, hey, well, this was okay. Yes, but we come up with general rules because on average, it avoids more harm than good. So here's the thing. There's a thing called rule utilitarianism, and there's act utilitarianism. Act utilitarianism is really hard to put in place because we don't have, this calculators that is constantly measuring harm and benefit with every single thing that we're doing. It's impossible to do act utilitarianism. So instead of doing act utilitarianism where we're acting like calculators that is constantly trying to figure out what the harm and benefits for every single thing every single decision that we're making, we came up with this concept called rule utilitarianism. We come up with these rules that on average, if we follow, they produce more benefits than harm. Like if we, even if you could find exceptions that's not the case, we follow them just because it will be very impractical if we wanted to evaluate this every single time. And the example that I come up with is, for example, crossing a red light. So is it true that like at 2 a.m. in the morning, for example, if there's a red light and there you see not a single car in the street, like you can see 2 miles, there's no cars coming. Is it true in this specific situation that if you cross the red light, there is no harm in crossing the red light because there's no way that an accident could happen? Yes, this is a situation where if you cross the red light, it's okay, there's no harm. But given that we can find situations like this, would it make sense for us to say, make the rule, don't cross the red light, except? No, we should not have that rule. That's a very dangerous thing to add. The rule should be just don't cross red lights. Because if you add that except part, you're opening the door to a lot of accidents. So this, when it comes to rule utilitarianism, again, this is not the world of atheists. This has nothing to do with atheism. This is rule utilitarianism, right? So atheists could have really bad moral systems as well. Okay, so this is not something that you want to like. I'm just only endorsing. This is something beyond atheism. I'm just endorsing this moral system, which is rule utilitarianism, right? So we could, like, when it comes to incest, we figured out that the misuse, if we allow this, the potential for harm is so high, unlike LGBT, that it's better to just generally say, let's not do this. Right? Even if you could find very specific exceptions, that it would be okay. It's just too much potential for harm. But you can't find that in LGBT relationships. That's why the comparison doesn't make any sense. Andrew?
You have a percentage. Yeah, because with sodomy, the chances for STDs are much higher, according to some studies. But that doesn't mean you can't do sodomy safely. You can still do sodomy safely. Do you have a percentage of how much harm would be caused by incest compared to sodomy? Or would you guys disagree that the STDs are...
Well, I don't see how you're responding to anything that Armin just said. Right? I think you're just waiting for your turn to speak. Can you repeat for us in your own words what you think Armin just said?
Yes, what Armin said was, the potential for harm is so great that we shouldn't allow any exceptions for incest. But even though there might be some harm in heterosexual and homosexual relationships, the harm is nowhere near as great.
Right, but you understand we're talking about that you're talking about a different harm than what Armin is talking about. You're talking about the transmission of disease, which is something that we know how to prevent, and we can, and any type of relationship where sex is involved. But one of the harms that he's talking about very specifically is an emotional harm that caused by the two people. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, Armin.
Oh, that makes sense. But can you give us an example?
Did I steel man Armin properly?
I would say no, because a harm caused by disease is not the same as the types of harm that can come from emotional harm and harm to society from two people who become so. And this, you can see this in dogs. That's why you don't normally adopt a brother and sister dog together, is because, or brother, sister, doesn't matter. You don't adopt siblings together, is because they can develop such a strong bond that they become completely. They start to ignore all of their bonds, to include that to their owner, and they can become dangerous to humans and other dogs around them in that particular, because their bond is so strong to the excess of everything else. And that is a completely different harm than disease.
So let me tell you, Andrew, why there's a potential for harm in one of them more than the other one, right? So you also acknowledge that two adults, like LGBT members, for them to, there are things that they could do that will make their sexual relationship healthy without disease. Both of them can do that, but that happens because both of them are adults, and both of them are free agents, and both of them are not being put under any pressure. Like, they're not in a situation where they're making decisions that they're doing things that may not accurately reflect what they really want. Okay, so when it comes to incest, when we say power dynamics, right, that means that is not the case anymore. So even with LGBT, like let's say two gay men, for example, if we see like there is a power dynamic issue and one of them is pressuring the other one, then we would have an issue with this. Like, or one of them is in a position that can pressure the other one to be in a sexual relationship that they don't want. Then we're not okay with that, whether it's straight or gay or whatever or anything else. So when it comes to incest, because brothers and sisters, or fathers and their children, or mothers and their children, there's a power difference, right? Then the ability to abuse, the potential for that for one party to take advantage of the other one is a lot higher. We would be against that within gay relationships as well, or straight relations as well. But the gay relationships or straight relationships between adults is not inherently like that all the time, but incest is potentially like that most of the time. You have to find very, very special, unique cases. Like, I could only find of a very rare, weird, exception that would have none of this. But in 99% of the situation, it will have that element. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the potential for harm is greater among incestual relationships, even if you try to mitigate those harmful factors, right? Is that
right? Yeah, because the type of consent is being proven to be very important, right? So do you understand why we care so much about power dynamics? This is why we talk about informed consent. We don't just say consent. We say informed consent, and consent in a way that you're not under influence, that you're not under pressure. This, when it comes to sexual relationship, it has been proven that this is the thing that we need to care about the most: the consent and the type of consent. And that's why we're so picky about power dynamics. And incest has that issue with it. That's why we're okay with LGBT, because if consent is demonstrated from all parties, we're okay with it. But incest is really hard for you to demonstrate that, given the power dynamics.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not for abuse either, so I agree with that. I'm not for manipulative any type of sexual behavior in that manner.
Awesome.
And you understand how that's different, and how it can't be mitigated through the use of a prophylactic like you can with disease, or with vaccines like you can with disease, right? This is not something we have a way to prevent medically like we do with disease, which is why you weren't steel manning the position. Do you see how that's different?
I do see how they're different. One is more harmful and cannot be mitigated as much as STDs. But you guys do agree that the STDs are more prevalent among LGBT, but we can mitigate that.
I don't know that it is true to say that the LGBTQI community has more STDs than the hetero community. I'm unaware of anything that actually says that. So no, I neither agree nor disagree with that statement, but I would challenge that it's true, just because people are people, and I don't know that there's, LGBTQI, in order for that to be true, LGBTQIA community would have to be having more sex than the heterosexual community, and I don't know that that's true.
Jim, I've read that it's true because society has made that a taboo, right? Because it's a type of sex that is a taboo and is like historically has been done more underground, and because you have to hide it from society, you might not be exposed to the safe ways of doing it. That's one of the reasons I've read that you might have more disease in the community. But as we progress and it becomes less of a taboo, then it should become more equal to other types of sex. That's what I've read. I don't know how accurate that is, but that might be the reason.
Yeah, and I like I said, I haven't read that. And those social pressures to not report and self-report kind of make sense. But given that all reporting on STDs is confidential, and having worked on a government piece of software to actually track that, it is confidential for that. It's not even tracked in the same system as other diseases. So yeah, and again, just because that is true doesn't mean that the perception isn't there. But I again, I don't know. So, and I don't know what that has to do with Armin being wrong anyway, because apparently he wasn't. You just didn't understand. You just didn't know what the entire argument was, right?
Yeah, and also, Andrew, do you agree that if I have, let's say, for example, straight sexual relationship was causing more disease than a gay sexual relationship, right? Let's say that was the case. Like, just we lived in a world that was the case, and I'm straight. Okay, I'm not gonna go have gay sex. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go gay sex just because straight, and I'm not gonna not have sex. That's not an option at all. And I'm not gonna have gay sex, even though straight sex will have somewhat more diseases associated with it. I would just be extra careful because the not having sex would not be an option, and having gay sex would not be an option. So I just will have to go educate myself. So I don't know why people use this disease argument against gay sex, given that they themselves would not stop having sex if that was true about the type of sex that they liked, given that you could easily find ways around it.
I agree. They would continue to engage in sexual relations because the point of this call and those other examples is simply to test the harm principle, because I've heard the harm principle thrown around a lot with atheism, and I think it's a little bit too simplistic. If it causes harm, therefore it's immoral. I agree with that sentiment, but it just feels too simplistic.
Okay.
Which part is too simplistic? Okay,
I didn't understand why it's too simplistic either. Harm seem, I don't disagree with harm being incorrect. I think happiness is a better measurement than harm, because harm is harder to define. But yeah, but the original point of your call is to attempt to debunk the slippery slope argument against incest that you thought Armin had not done, and apparently he has. So, do you agree with that? Have I?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Also, Andrew, just one last thing before. First of all, Andrew, this was great. Like, you are so willing to change your opinions. That's very nice to see always. But also, I just want to suggest that when we're talking about reducing harm, we should also consider not having sex as a harm. Okay, like that should be part of the calculation. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
In many cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Great phone call. Please call back again when you got another something else you want to talk about.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Yeah. Okay, and super chats. I'll take the first one. You want to take the second one, and we'll just go through them that way there, Armin? This
Sounds
is from
good.
Monkey
Fantastic.
at Typewriter, who sent us $2. Jesus will come again. I'll probably fake it. Never fake it.
Oh wait, let me see. I don't know what the chats are. Okay, wait. Actually, can you take the other one because I lost it. Where? Okay, wait,
Oh,
wait,
sure.
wait.
No. Gayest Husky is an S.
Oh yeah. Well, I
He's
have
next.
Dark Wolf Games, new member. Hopefully you. Oh, can I read that one? Hopefully you
go
fine
ahead.
folks are having a good show. I will just read that one because I lost my place.
Okay. And then we've got Gayest Husky, who sent us $4.99. Jesus is going to pay my eggs in preparation for the second coming. Eggs? Okay. Not really sure. I mean, what happened to the first coming? And what about the third? Twice just seems to be, a little on the low side to me, but everyone's different. Do you see the next one there, Armin, or?
I see Critical Corey. Can I read that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I see my name in there. Yeah. Great stream. Okay, so great. Wait, it moved. God damn it. Great stream as always, you lovely people. Armin, I've ordered your book. Looking forward to reading it. Jim, I love your shirt. Oh, wow. Fantastic. This has been a good show for my book today. This is the second time my book is being mentioned on the show. So I'm going to show it on
Excellent.
By the way, I get to show it on this show because the revenue from this goes to a nonprofit. That's why I get to show it at this show. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Right. Another super chat. Yeah, Gayest Huskies Master, $4.99. Jesus is going to paint the hood of my Cobra. Oh, and for the transphobes watching, happy Transvisibility Day and happy Sunday Fun Day.
I also see one from John with no messages. John Maurice.
Send us $5. Yeah.
$5. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
And then Dark Wolf Games is also a new member. Sent us $5 with no message. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And then Quantum Answer, who's been a member for 2 years, gifted 10 Atheist Experience memberships. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Let's go to Bjorn in Norway, who says he's got research he'd like to present on consciousness that might be connected to the existence of a God. So let's start with proving that a God exists first.
Well, this might be something weird to do right now, but there might be some difficulties translating some of the terms, but we can work on this. The argumentation I present to, maybe some others have said it, doesn't matter really, is that every realized moment must always have been potential of becoming before the realization. That's a no given axiom. Do you understand?
No.
Hello?
Do you understand, Jim?
It must be possible to happen when it happens.
Sure. Okay. That seems like a tautology, but sure.
Yeah, just repeating the same thing twice.
So if everything realized is potential before the realization, you got this state of potential, timeless, which must have been always. And then that's what I call omnipotence. What I do with compare to omnipotence. Also, the possibility of becoming totally abstract, but must have been. And therefore,
are you making an argument for determinism?
Determinism will be a consequence, of course.
Are you saying everything that was supposed to be the way it is, like it couldn't have been anywhere else, any way else? it was always going to be meant to be the way it is?
I have been working on this and researching. And
what is? Wait, hold on. What is God? What is God? Because before we decide, before we try to prove, yes, because you're trying to prove that God's existence. So what is it?
On my subjective point of view, as a Norwegian, we are Odin. On our journey through life, receiving experience, wisdom, and that I don't know what you know about Norwegian modern mythology.
I know Odin. I know who Odin is, but what is? But that's not the answer to my question. What is God? Is that you just give me a name? Are you telling me his name?
A name. Well,
can you define God?
The primordial consciousness, which upholds, so I don't know the right word, the presence of potential.
Okay.
Is upheld by...
These are different things. Pick one definition. You're giving me different definitions. Can you pick one definition? You're giving me different things. What is the definition of God? Is it the first consciousness that created everything? Do you want to go with that?
Understand the question? Huh?
Okay. You don't understand the question. You're trying to prove God. Before we prove God, the existence of God, we have to understand what we're talking about. What is God? Are you, based on what you've said so far, I think you're saying that the first consciousness, there was a consciousness at the beginning of everything that created everything. Is that what you're going to want to call God? The consciousness at the beginning of everything that created everything?
Yes, it's similar to the biblical...
No, I don't care what it's similar to. Just answer my question. Is your definition of God the primary, consciousness that created everything?
No, it did not create everything. Everything
what did it do?
Potential. Its potential to become was always. And this was a timeless state.
Then what did the consciousness do? Then what did the consciousness do?
It was upholding the presence of potential by its logical sense.
How would you even go about demonstrating that there is something that upholds anything?
Yes, you can go further back to the illogical state.
What does an illogical state even mean?
Yeah, right.
What is consciousness?
It was abruptly, without reason, from nowhere. It was broken by the minimal, illogical pace.
You're stringing words together that have meanings, and I think I understand the meanings, but I put them together and they don't have any meaning. What is this? Why is there a state before logic?
Well, there is no state before logic.
Okay.
Because the potential has always been.
The potential is there's a potential for a herd of pigs to come flying out of my backside right now. Does that mean I should actually wear a pigsty for underwear?
Right, but that's a different thing. The potential was abstract. It had no definitions. It was just potential of becoming.
Becoming what? Okay. Potential for what?
And then one change occurred, and a paradoxical event happened that every logical pattern.
Okay, can it? Okay. You're just saying. Okay, wait. Listen, wait. You're saying things that are just basic things that we know about how words work. Like everything has a potential. Everything becomes what it had the potential to become. These are not valuable statements to make. These are just things the way they are. But then you introduce a consciousness at the beginning of all of this, and you're failing to connect these statements that are, not important, not very meaningful, because they're so obvious that nobody is saying they're not true. But then you add to this soup of just random sentences that nobody disagrees with, a part that we want to see how you got that part, like the consciousness. Can you connect all these random statements that you're making to that consciousness? Because right now you haven't built a bridge between these sentences and that consciousness. What is that consciousness, and how do you know there is such a consciousness? Just saying that things are becoming what they had the potential to become is not valuable. It doesn't add anything to us believing that consciousness at the beginning exists. Because things could become things could become what they had the potential to become without that consciousness. Can you tell us why that consciousness is necessary for all of this to happen?
Something cannot exist alone.
Okay, tell us why.
So hold on a second. Did you just say something cannot exist alone?
Yes, because if it's alone, if it's everything and nothing else, as I said in the chat, it's the same as nothing.
That doesn't make any sense. How do you know something can't exist alone?
Nothing can exist alone.
Just repeat
nothing
the claim.
Can exist alone.
And A is A and nothing else than A.
Yes, that's the first law of logic. Thank you very much for stating it. What does that have to do with something existing?
Yes, and this thing existing with it, because the concept of absolute nothingness is just meaningless.
There is no concept of absolute nothingness that comes from anywhere except theists, right? There is no physicist.
Yes. I'm not a religious theist. I just believe.
But see, so the problem that you have is that there is no physicist that I'm aware of who has hypothesized that the universe came out of nothing. None, zero, doesn't exist.
Yes,
in fact, to make it even worse for you, when you say that nothing can't exist, we've actually proven that that's not true. Right, we have taken
alone. I said.
How do you know that it can't exist alone? The universe apparently exists alone. Our universe is only one of a kind, as far as we know. We're not able to peer outside of it, so we don't know. But the universe could do it.
But even if it's true, it's not relevant to his claim.
Yeah, true. We still haven't gotten around to why you think a God exists. Or what this consciousness is, right? You haven't been able to define this consciousness or how we can detect it.
If we could agree on the potential part, that the potential of becoming must have been.
Yes, the potential for something to happen must have. Yes. But it doesn't mean anything.
What you're saying is like, hey, do you agree that 2 plus 3 is 5? Do you agree that 4 divided by 2 is 2? Do you agree that if I count from 1 and then go away 8 times, go forward 8 times, then I will reach number 9 at some point? Would you? And then okay, well, the consciousness at the beginning of the universe. Well, wait, where did that come from? Where did that come from? You're just saying stuff that are just random statements about obvious things, and you're saying things that are just like the way they are. They were the potential of what they were before, and you're like, okay, where does this consciousness come from? That's the part that we have an issue with, not all these random statements about obvious things.
The upholder of potential. It's just as
why do we need an upholder of potential? Why do we need that? Can you tell us why we need that? Why do we need and also why, even if we did need an upholder of potentials, why should it be consciousness? What is consciousness?
What consciousness is? I define it in 2 parts, but I'm not sure what it's in English.
How do you know there has to be an upholder of potential?
Like panpsychism, it's in that area. But I'm for the argument of why is the potential, the existence of the potential.
Okay. So here's the problem with your existence of potential. I agree, things are potential, right? There is a potentiality where a herd of pigs can come flying out of my ass, correct?
Yes, no.
Is that probable? Is it probable for that to happen? Is that probable?
No.
Okay, so why do I care? Why do I care about things that are potential but not probable?
Because this was the state before the beginning of Big Bang.
How do you know that?
God, we're not saying anything. We're not saying anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. How would you go about demonstrating that this existed before the Big Bang, considering that physicists who have the math and the tools can't get there?
I have studied your show because I have a deep interest in the communication between atheists and theists. And argumentation.
You're not communicating very well for somebody that is so interested in communication.
Yeah, and you haven't, also, it's a real simple question. How do you know what happened before the Big Bang? How do you know what happened before the Big Bang?
Well, then I have to tell you something from my life, and you're not interested in that.
That's right,
no, personal experience is only evidence you had an experience, not the truth of the experience. Yeah, so we don't really care. What I want to know, but you need to demonstrate what happened before the Big Bang. And if your answer is personal experience, are you claiming that you existed before the Big Bang?
I'm claiming we have to do this systematically. And it would be much easier.
As part of your system, you wanting us to believe that you had a personal experience from before the Big Bang?
I accidentally started the process in my mind for about 30 years ago, 25 or what. That's it.
Okay, and how would we demonstrate that this experience that you started 35 years ago is real and not just all in your head?
Yes, that's a good question, actually.
Oh, okay. I think we got to end the call there, bud, Bjorn, because if you can't figure out a way for us to prove that your personal experience is real, there's nothing more really to talk about, is there?
Well, I'm still doing the research, and I'm very thankful for your time and all that. And
thank you.
I really want to know why, given that we have potential for things to happen in the universe, why do we need like a bag of potential holders? Like, why can't we just have potentials without a potential holder? And if we did need a potential holder, why does it need to be conscious? And what is your definition of consciousness? We never got to that because you just kept on repeating. The reason why I get frustrated is because instead of building this bridge to carry me to the next, part of their argument, you kept on repeating the same things. Like, you're like, okay, we agreed, okay, we have potential for things to be a certain way in the universe. I wanted you to take me to the next step. Why do we need a potential holder? What does this got to do with the consciousness? I kept on asking you this over and over and over again, and you kept on going to the first step and just repeating it. That's not very good communication.
I postulate the presence of a logical sense. That's
That's the claim. I understand
that's just
that.
a claim.
That's the claim.
Yeah.
That's the claim.
Bjorn,
I was asking why.
Bjorn, I think you need to go back to the drawing board. And remember, you called us, so if you weren't prepared to deal with this topic in English, that's not on us. Okay, thanks for the call, Bjorn. Call back when you've got some more evidence that doesn't rely on your personal experience. Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't have a way to demonstrate that your personal experience was real, like my personal experience right now is that what is outside of me is trees, and I can prove that by taking a picture, showing you the picture, or having you come join me. Right? That's how you would verify my personal experience. But how Bjorn would do that for something that happened before the Big Bang, I don't know, and would really like to know. All right. Let's move on.
I got a bit frustrated. I don't like that I got frustrated. I'm trying to be patient with people, but when you just when you play with words and you just go on circles, it's really hard. But I'm going to try harder to be patient.
Yeah, it was getting frustrating there. All right, let's go with Jason in Wisconsin, who says he has a prophetic message from God about things that will happen in America before the year ends. Okay, so we're going to need very specific things. We're going to need dates. We're going to need specific people and very specific events, and as specific as you would get in the history books for 9/11. Do you have any of that, Jason?
This is good.
Jason?
And I can also, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
We want specifics, not generalities.
No, I'll give you specifics.
All right.
And like I said,
First prophecy, first date, first time, and people involved. Start with that. Date and time, please.
So you want to know the things that come before we have a conversation about it? Because I thought we were going to have a discussion.
You said you have a prophetic message from God about things that will happen. I'm interested in things that will happen. I don't care where you think the message comes from, but you say that about things that will happen. So you'll start with a date and a time, the people involved, and then what is the event? Very specific, please.
Okay, so everything is going to be before the end of the year. So that's all you have to do is just watch. So before the end of the year, you'll see these things. So one.
At the end of the year is specific, but you're saying before. I want to know, is this happening on August 1st? Is this happening on April 3rd? Is it 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Date and time, not before. Because I can say things, I can say before the end of the year, a president will be chosen. Right? I'd say before the end of the year, somebody will get into an automobile accident. Those are not prophetic statements. Those are Barnum statements. I want prophecy, which means I want specific dates and times. So start with that. On this month, on this day, at this time.
That's not how prophecy works.
Oh, so you're going to make Barnum statements. You're going to make statements so general that they could possibly be true, right?
Why don't you write it?
Let's hear it.
And let's see if it happens. Let's see if it happens before the end of the year. So, okay, one, President Trump will be back in office. All the charges.
Blah, 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 blah. You have no prophecy. God told you nothing because he hasn't told you anything because you don't have specific dates and times. You're not making prophecy. You're making Barnum statements. Thanks for wasting our time so much. Call back when you can actually have dates and times. Bye. Waste of time. Yeah, so prophecy, dates, times, people, and specific event, right? And not generalities. They just do not work. I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance to talk there, Armin, but I just thought he was wasting our time from the get-go.
Yeah, no. Good call.
Okay. So we got a couple of super chats in. For one from Miranda Rensberger for $5. He is not risen. He is not risen indeed. May your chocolate bunnies be solid and not hollow like theism. If he's not risen, then he either needs Viagra or more yeast. I'm not sure which. You want to take the second one there?
Okay, sure. Miranda, I don't know how to pronounce the last
This is, Rensberger, I think.
Rensberger. Okay.
Yeah,
But
she's the second one.
Super chats, thank you so much. Saying the most important event to celebrate today is Trans Day of Visibility. Really? Okay, I didn't know that. When religion is used to spread hatred, atheists need to fight that. Do whatever you can to support trans rights today. Cool.
Amen.
I think everybody should fight that, like regardless of whether or not they're atheists. But sure, yeah, I like that message.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Dark Wolf Games, who's a new member, sent us $5. Secular Rarity told me I have free will to win this donation battle. So apparently Dark Wolf Games is declaring a donation battle, which he is apparently currently winning according to him. The only way to disagree is to send us more super chats. And I'm saying that just so we get more super chats. Please, guys, if you can, send us super chats. If you can't, like, subscribe. Don't send us what you can't afford. And that is it for super chats. And we have no more theist callers. We just have some atheist callers. So if you're a theist, call in. We will give you priority. So bringing up Jake in Arkansas or Arkansas, depending on what part of the state you're from. Who wants to talk about if the world would be better off without religion?
Well, almost for sure. Hi. Yes, it would be.
So,
Good. Yes, it would be.
first and
It
foremost-
would be better with that religion.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you'd have less conflict to start off with. You know, less wars throughout history would not have been fueled, in the least part of it, that religious differences. Also, the promotion of rationality and critical thinking. I mean, how many times has religion pushed back science? I mean, they burned Copernicus at the stake, imprisoned Galileo, all for unveiling how the solar system truly works.
Well, we go to modern times with the religious folks in the United States and other places being the first to deny that vaccines work and the first to deny that COVID was a thing, and that you could be washed in the blood of Christ and not catch COVID, right? I mean, even more modern times, theism has killed people directly by making them believe things that aren't true and to disbelieve in science. So we don't even have to go back as far as Copernicus anymore, really.
I mean, to demonstrate this is actually pretty easy. Let me know if this makes sense, right? In a world, okay, where A is not equal B, okay, do you think which society would prosper more? Okay, in a world that A is not equal B, okay, would a society that thinks A equal B prosper more, or a society that thinks A is not equal B? Which society do you think prospers more?
Equal B. Right?
No. The society that thinks A is not equal B, given that that's the truth, right? As the closer our beliefs are to reality, okay, the better we are, the more equipped we are to get what we want, to get to our goals. So it's not about religion. It's about any false belief. Religion is just a subcategory of false ideas, false beliefs. The more individuals have beliefs that are closer to reality, the better off those individuals are and the societies that they live in, because our beliefs are our maps, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down now. Yeah, definitely. I mean, also you got the whole sexist opposition too. I mean, women in some Orthodoxies can't teach, preach. They can only teach. And in some societies, women are treated as secondary citizens, all backed up behind some scripture that is badly interpreted at best.
Yeah, and it's been demonstrated many times that countries that allow women to have control over their reproductive health and therefore their lives, women do better. And when women do better socially and economically, the country does better socially and economically. And I don't see how people can fail to see how that happens, right?
Right.
So
I'm mistaken, Rwanda that just started allowing equal rights to women, and they got 48% amount of women in their Congress now actually helping out making laws that are beneficial for women. But
right.
Yeah.
Also, the reduction of child
Yeah. So, Jake, I think we basically agree on this, and that we just keep coming up with examples. But we do have some more callers in the queue we'd like to be able to get to. So, thanks for calling, and call in again with more interesting topic. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Jim, before you go to the next caller, I just want to quickly, I don't know if this explain how I think about reality, truth, and belief, and let me know if it makes sense. The way we have reality, we have truth, and we have beliefs. The way I look at it is if we're on an island, like me and Jim are on an island, and I have a treasure and you have a treasure, and we're looking for it, right? So what I consider reality is the island itself, where the trees are, where the river is, where the mountain is, everything. That's reality. What is truth is an ideal, perfect map of this island. That is what's considered to be truth. What is belief is the map that I have on my hand, okay? And the map that Jim has in his hand. That is belief. So my map could be closer to the truth, to that ideal map, or it could be farther away. So here's the question. Who is more likely to find their treasure, faster, or more likely to be able to find them? If Jim's map, neither of our map matches the truth. Neither of our maps are perfect, but Jim's map is a lot closer to that ideal map than my map. So if we both go hunt for our treasure, I will bet that Jim is going to be able to find his treasure more than I. If we do this 100 times, I think 90 times Jim will be able to find his treasure before me. That's how I look at reality, truth, and belief. Does that make sense?
I think that's a good analogy and a good model to think of it. And like Forrest is so fond of saying, all models are wrong, but some models are useful. And I think that's a useful model to think about it as, without a doubt. It's just, we all have a model of reality in our heads, and we work off that. And that model is shaped by what happens to us as children. That's why some atheists still have a hard time with hell, is because that became an early part of their mental map of reality, and they're trying to shake it, and they can be very difficult to do. Which is a nice segue into what Lucy in Lithuania wants to talk about, religiosity and spiritualism being a breeding ground of toxic positivity. So what do you mean by toxic positivity, and how do you see those two things feeding into that?
Well, toxic positivity is basically a belief that despite any circumstances, you have to have a positive mindset. So basically, if you have some set of beliefs, they try to be idealistic, usually, and that basically breeds this maladaptive point of view, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a degree of truth to that. That if you believe that God will always bail you out, and you find yourself on a small boat in a rough sea, you're probably still going to get that boat swamped and sunk if you don't do something to keep yourself floating along. That would definitely be a toxic positive attitude that, oh, God will bail me out. I think we saw that, like I said earlier, with COVID, and all the preachers who said you can get COVID if you believe hard enough, and a lot of them ended up with COVID. So, yeah, I agree. I think it is a breeding ground of toxic positivity. Armin, what do you think?
Of course.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Lucy, it also seems like I'm actually going to steal this from you. That sounds like a very interesting term to use. But it also seems like, if I understood you correctly, it also seems like it's a way for you to take advantage of people. Especially by religious governments or religious rulers, when they're not providing the services that they need to the people, or when people's situations are getting worse and worse and worse, you basically sell them this toxic positivity. You give them hope, you give them an afterlife, you basically tell them things are better, because they're in the tribe of God, or in the party of God, or God loves them, or the afterlife would be great, and they come and keep donating to the churches or to the theocracy or whatever, or they will keep supporting the people that are making their lives worse and worse and worse, because it might be worse in this life, but they're getting closer to God, and they're just getting happier even though their lives are getting worse. And this is a way for the authorities not actually taking care of their people, but acting like they're taking care of their people and convincing their people that things are actually good when they're not. Does that make sense? Like, it seems like a good toxic positivity seems like a really powerful weapon to take advantage of people, poor people especially.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's very true, and it is most important well, these days, I think, because I guess some people are saying like you can pray an actual illness in your body away. But if you begin, I think that's not been addressed that much in these idealistic, any religion or spiritual beliefs, that your emotions and how you're feeling it's like okay to feel bad. Because like I was a Christian for a long time, and it's basically if you feel bad, something is wrong with you and you need to fix it because you're a bad person. You just need to pray the sadness away, basically, and not address it medically or with a professional or anything. It's a way to keep you in like selling sunshines and rainbows, basically, when life is not that
right. Yeah, that's actually true. It's very dangerous when you need professional help and you don't seek it because you're actually talking to people, religious authorities instead of people that could actually help you, and you basically get stuck in that trap, and you can't get out of it because you're convinced that you don't need anything. You don't need to go seek help because you think everything is the way that it's supposed to be. That is very dangerous. You're right.
Yeah, especially if you have a chemical imbalance or other defect in the brain where you actually need to get some help. Depression comes to mind.
Yes, I have first-hand experience with exactly this, but also it is like even not in a religious sense. That's why I use both those words in my callers screening, is because many like spiritual beliefs that are also very idealistic and like, oh, if you just change your mindset and think about, oh, I'm actually not sad right now, and if I just get out of the sadness by myself, that's the exact same thing, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
I go ahead.
Yeah, meditation is actually the only useful thing I find for mental health and kind of like spiritualism, but I haven't found anything else useful from being spiritual. Maybe like philosophical things, but it's that's basically.
It depends on what you mean by spiritual too, right?
Yeah, defining spirituality is very, very, very weird.
Yeah, sometimes people can't define it very well, and that also kind of contributes to bad things happening with, or inability to communicate what we mean by it. But I also find meditation helps. I have a rather severe case of ADD, and while I know many people with ADD who can't meditate, I found that it helps my ADD tremendously to be able to meditate. I don't claim to do it as well as somebody who is neurotypical, but I do it well for me. I do it better today than I did yesterday anyway. So, yeah, I agree. But it's not enough, right? Sometimes you just, you can't, so those folks with ADD who meditation doesn't help, I don't blame them because it's part of their neurochemistry not to be able to do that. Mine is just not severe enough or conducive, either not severe enough or conducive to being mitigated by meditation. So for those who help, it's great. For those it doesn't, hopefully the medications help. But
yeah, meditation is good, obviously, but and it's a tricky thing because you can go into church basically and have a real good time and you worship the Lord and it's great and it also makes you feel better, but you can't 100% rely on help from an external source, but you can't 100% depend on only yourself. Like you should have support. It's like a walking stick, you can't, if you're crippled in your leg and you have a stick, then your muscles are still doing all the work. The mind has to kind of heal itself. It's true.
Well,
but
for those that can, I mean,
yeah.
There's no chemistry that will not allow will not allow for someone to not use the stick of, in your case, the crutch of medication. They have to have the medication, just like somebody who doesn't have a leg needs to have a prosthetic leg if they're going to walk normally. Now they have other ways they can move themselves around, wheelchairs, etc. But going with the analogy of walking, they have to have that prosthetic. You've got to have something to help out. So absolutely. Anyway, we're going to get to our next call, and it'll be the last call of the evening. Lucy, thanks so much, and call back again. It was a great conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
All righty, folks, and we are on the last call of the evening, and this one is with Joseph, a theist from Michigan, who wants to know, is it God in general or the concept thereof you have an issue with, or the God of religious texts? Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right, so okay. I think Armin and I have two related answers to that. Mine is, I have not seen sufficient good evidence for any definition of God that has been presented to me so far. Armin?
Yeah, so any claims without evidence, like God, the texts associated with God, I don't know, Santa Claus, jinns, anything, like they're all the same. Like, what do you mean? You seem to, I don't know, the question seems to be like we have an issue with it because we don't like something about it, but it's just basically all of it is just claims without evidence. We have issue with all claims without evidence. We can't believe in claims without evidence. And that's what all they are.
And so the claims without evidence, which from your experience, I'm guessing that the majority of theists call it their call. Their evidence is mostly based on personal evidence, or this happened in my life, that happened in my life. And you can make the argument that that's not there's not an objective claim of evidence because not everyone can observe that claim. If that's the common theme amongst the vast majority of people who claim to have that experience with God, are they all, I wonder if all of those people who make those personal claims, that is not completely objectifiably, or we all see the same thing you see. Are all those people, from your perspective, delusional, or maybe they saw things that they didn't really see, or they have a bias? What is your perspective on it?
Yeah, so people who grow up in Islamic countries tend to have Islamic experiences. People who grow up in Hindu countries tend to have Hindu experiences. Those of us who grow up in Christian countries tend to have Christian experiences. So I don't think that, so you can have an experience, and then how you interpret that experience is going to be strongly influenced by the culture within which you were raised. So if you were raised to believe in spirits like Japanese Shinto, you may attribute things happening more to spirits than to a God like you would if you were in Christianity. So I don't deny that people have experiences. What I'll have problems with is how do we know those experiences are true and your interpretation of those experiences is correct. But no, that is not actually, we get so many calls. Personal experience is actually probably no more or less than the look at the trees argument, which is, of course, the argument from design, or the argument, the cosmological arguments. We get the whole gamut of the argument range, and they're the same arguments over and over again. Nobody's come up with anything new. So people can have personal experiences. People can have the same experience and interpret different ways. They can interpret the same way, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's real.
So, but you're asking us to make a claim. Like, why are you? I mean, we don't have a claim. So first of all, you're saying a lot of the people who call you about why they believe in God, say most of them are like this. We don't have I don't have a percentage. I don't know if this is not. Most of them, like many of them, have other reasons for why they believe in God. Some of them is personal experiences. A lot of them are not. I don't know what the percentages are, but a lot of them give other reasons or other evidence, which are, pretty horrible when it comes to standards for evidence. But even among the people who give personal experience as a reason, then you ask us like, what do you ask us why? What do you think they're saying? Why do you think they're saying what they're saying? But who cares? Like, I don't know. Like they have, it's all over the place. You know, like why? I'm not going to make a claim. I mean, I don't have access to that person. If maybe give that person to me and give me a degree in psychology and give me, I don't know, 5 years of having repeated sessions with them, then I might have an answer for you. I don't know. Like, I just look at the evidence. I don't have to tell you why are they saying what they're saying. I just look at it and I see it's not good enough. And I'm like, yeah, this is not good reason enough. That's all I need to tell you. But given that you believe in God, I'm assuming, right? You believe in God, right?
Yes.
He says yes. So what do you think is a good evidence, and have we met them? Like, what do you think is a good standard for an evidence in God, and are we there? Do we need evidence?
Kind of like a combination. I mean, it's going to be, if I was to say scientifically, for me, I looked at the DNA. I mean, there are some studies I did a while ago, so I can't be super specific about how the DNA is formed and how they got down to the micro little details about DNA. And I thought that was...
Don't tell us the things that you can't tell about the DNA. So, you looked at the DNA and you found evidence for God. Go on.
Yeah. So basically, the argument you're making, Joseph, is the teleological argument, the argument from design, right? So and I just want to be real clear that I got your argument correctly. You don't think DNA can come about naturally. It had to be designed. Would that be fair to say?
That would be very fair to say.
Okay. So the problem with every argument from design, or as I like to call them, look at the trees argument, which is kind of the same argument. They're all the same argument, is that you first have to prove the designer exists before you can prove that something was designed. Because we don't have any good way of determining what in this universe is natural and what is designed, because the only way to compare it to find out is to compare it to something that is designed, that is either known to be designed or known to be not designed. We only have one universe. And what science has shown is that there is a great potential for DNA to occur very naturally. Now, we don't have all the steps. If there are 10 steps, we probably have 7 of them, and the 3 we're missing are kind of in the middle. But, you know, by way of analogy, but until you prove there is a designer, the vast majority of the evidence that we have is that there is no designer. We can look back at the last 2,000 years of history, and we can see that every phenomena that had a supernatural explanation for it now no longer has a supernatural explanation. We have natural explanations for almost everything. Why would we assume, given this huge body of knowledge and the fact that no naturally explained phenomena has ever given way to a supernaturally explained phenomena, why would we assume that the supernatural or God is ever involved in any of this? What makes that logical?
And after this, I want to ask some questions from Joseph.
Sure.
If it's okay.
Yeah, sure. To answer real quickly, I would just say, well, personal experience is, if I create a child, I understand that child is naturally being created within the womb, but there is something that has to happen that takes place that sparks that life within that child. I'm aware.
Why is that not just chemicals?
Great.
You know that it's chemicals.
Because
why is it a big stretch? Where's your evidence that there's anything else that needs to be there?
Well, I would say that's a massive stretch. I don't now me personally, I've never met anyone yet personally who have looked in the child's eyes, and the first thing that came to their mind was when they say, "Oh, you can tell someone about you can look into the windows of the eyes of the soul," that kind of euphemism. I've never seen a parent look into the child's eyes and think to themselves or say out loud to me or anyone else that, "Oh, this was just a chemical process that took place." It was something that you see in that person's eyes. That's not, you can't, scientifically say, like, you can't grasp it physically, right? can't scientifically measure under a microscope.
Right, but
this is the process, but we understand there's a natural process that took place. But prior
so what?
there had to be a spark of something that created that.
So what? I know,
Okay.
but see, you're making an argument from incredulity, right? You are incredulous that life could come from just sperm and an egg coming together, that there has to be something else, and that's your incredulity. Is an argument from incredulity a valid argument?
Well, I mean, I guess it's the can something come from, it seems like the chemicals, can something come from nothing? Can creation, because we are.
You're not answering my question.
Create.
Is an argument that starts with, I am incredulous that X can happen, a valid argument?
I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure what incredulous means. What is the definition of that?
I don't have a belief that X can happen, therefore. How's that?
I don't have a belief that X can happen, therefore.
Yeah, because that's basically what you're saying. You don't have a belief that an egg and a sperm can come together and create a human being. That you're saying there has to be something extra. You don't know what that extra is. You have no way to demonstrate that extra actually exists, right? So you have no belief that any of that happens. Just because you don't believe something to be true, does that mean it is not true?
No, I believe it happens. It's a natural process. There's no doubt that.
What is this extra thing then?
Down. What is this extra thing? It's something that you to put it under a microscope is very. If I was to look at you face to face and talk to you, I would see that there's something else in you that created the physical being that you are. But for me to try to.
What is that thing? How do you know it exists, and how can you see it?
That's a great question. It's more like how can I feel it? So it's not just.
Let me run this by you real quick, right? So every social species that we're aware of has very similar behaviors to humans. They have behaviors that they get jealous when other people get things that they don't. They get upset when people steal from them. They tend to cooperate together and to need that cooperation to survive better, right? Why is us being a social species not a better explanation than some undefinable thing that you can't tell me how to detect or prove that exists?
Could you reframe that question for me, please? I'm just trying
Sure.
to what you're saying.
Every social species that we're aware of, let me get through this. Every social species we're aware of exhibits behaviors similar to humans that we consider moral. So social species, when another member of that species steals from them, they get upset. When another member of that species gets something that they don't, or they get upset. Some species will risk their own lives to help another member of the species they've never met, and these types of behaviors. And this is all in social species because cooperation is a survival strategy, and it works really, really well when everybody's playing by the same set of rules. Why is that not a better explanation than this indefinable thing that you claim exists and can't prove?
Oh, that's okay. So it's not that I agree with everything you just said. It's not that I think what I'm saying is a better explanation. There's just sort of like, I think of like Wizard of Oz. There's a puppet master behind the things we see in front of our eyes that is not just operating itself. So these emotions that you describe of other, let's just say the animal kingdom, because we all evolved from the primates, and that is, to me, I believe.
Oh no, I also describe behaviors of rats and horses and other social species, meerkats, and other social species. So it's not just primates. It's all, like I said, it's almost all social species. Even orcas and other whales will see the same types of behaviors in. So yeah, social species in general.
Intelligence. So there's two intelligence.
Yes.
all signs of intelligence. And in that,
except we see the same thing happen in bacteria.
It doesn't.
Yeah, we see.
Right. I mean, like if you're talking about like the atom, that's intelligence. I mean, all of these things as intelligence.
No, atoms have no intelligence. They just do what they do because of the laws of physics, right? Bacteria have cooperation mechanisms, and they have very sophisticated ways of determining who's cheating, and then punishment. It's all fairly sophisticated. But a natural explanation is always going to be better than a supernatural explanation. Anyway, Armin, you had a question.
Okay.
No, yeah, I was going to go back to the question that I was trying to get at. You were saying that can we rewind a couple of minutes back? You were trying to prove, I was trying to get you step by step into your proof of your evidence for the existence of God. So let's rewind and listen to you offering the evidence. Give me the evidence, because I wanted to see how you actually construct that argument.
The evidence thing is that I know that you guys have so much experience everything that I would say is things that you would have heard before ad nauseum.
I don't care. I'm not gonna tell you why you're wrong. Okay. I just want to see. I'm not gonna give you explanations for how things works. I just want to see what you say. What's your evidence? Like, imagine I haven't heard any of these arguments before. Okay. What's your evidence for the existence of God? Just give me the evidence.
Yes, experience. So let me see what evidence. Personally, well, I would scientifically, I did say DNA. To me, I thought that was fascinating to me. So the
DNA
structure, the structure, that to me is, now you can argue that it's not enough, that we're just at a certain point and that at some point we want to figure out that.
No. I haven't heard, I'm not going to argue, like you say, you could argue. I haven't heard anything yet. For me to argue, I can't argue back against that because I haven't heard anything yet, okay? You say that DNA is fascinating. I agree. So far, I'm not going to argue against you because we both are in agreement. The DNA is fascinating, okay? So how could I argue against that? What's the next step? I want you to get to God. You said the DNA is fascinating. Is that the only thing you're going to say? Like, no. I'm sure there's a lot of steps in between the DNA being fascinating and God, right? That can't be the end of your argument. Okay, go on.
Oh man, as far as like naturally speaking, things we can see, objectify, that to me is fascinating. But okay, so personally, it's just it's things that, again, I wish I could, if I could take my brain and put it in yours and you can see what I've experienced in life, it would make more sense.
Wait. We are still, why are we going to your life? We're talking about the DNA, okay? See, we haven't yet even started to make an argument, and now you switch to your experiences that you have in your life. Did we just abandon the DNA argument? Can we continue the DNA argument? Because so far we're in agreement. You just said so far that the DNA is fascinating, and I agree with you. Are you going to abandon? Because was that the entirety of that argument? Is that why you're abandoning that argument?
Well, when I came on initially, it was to ask the question that I asked, but I didn't actually come on.
Yeah, but I don't forget that. Forget that. I'm asking you a question, okay? How do we get from the DNA being fascinating to God? Was that the end of it, or did you have any other steps that gets us to God?
No, so I would have to go back and actually jot down a lot of details. And what I will do is I will come back on the show and I will retouch on the DNA argument. It's been a couple.
Do you agree, Joseph? Do you agree, Joseph, that the DNA being fascinating is not a good argument for the existence of God? Do you agree with that?
On the general statement alone, absolutely not. But it's the things that I've learned. This is many months back, where I got more into detail about it. I didn't bother writing down specific details, but it was just, it got into much more detailed explanation of the DNA and how
where were you?
Like and things like this. So
Where were you reading this? Real quick, where were you reading about DNA?
well, there's a few places.
Remember
books that I read. I had to dig. I did save the books. I had to go back into my my cache.
Are they books on DNA written by PhDs in biology and actual researchers in DNA and actual researchers in abiogenesis?
As well as people who did not have a particular belief one way or the other, so they claim about a God or a lack of God. So I didn't ask about that. I asked about biologists and I asked about abiogenesis researchers. I don't care what their beliefs are. I care about the research they're doing. So if you're not reading if you're reading about DNA and it's not from a biologist who's talking about and studies DNA, such as an abiogenesis researcher, then you're not reading anything worthwhile. You're just reading someone's opinion about stuff, and that's not good enough, especially if you're reading for people who are writing from a theological point of view, right? Because if they let their beliefs color their facts, that's not good.
Okay, can I get back to the point that Joseph, you read some details about the DNA, okay, and you don't remember the specific details. That's okay, but what is it about those details? I don't need you to remember those details itself, but can you tell me what is it about those details that made you convinced that there's a God, that's an evidence?
Well, it didn't make me convinced, but there was evidence. It was just the things that I'm just going back in my root memory here.
To me, Joseph, it seems like the details that, correct me if I'm wrong, to me, it seems like you are saying that they were so fascinating, that there was a lot of details, there was a lot of complexity involved. Is that what you're saying?
It was very complex, and so, like I said, I will come back, and I will have people.
No, but here's the thing: don't come back with that, because that would be a repeat of saying that the DNA is fascinating. So let's say you go and read all these details and come back to us with like, oh my God, did you know how this folds like here and this goes there and this and then this happens and this happens, and like, oh my God, yeah, that's very interesting. But that just adds to the first claim, for the first part of your argument, that this is all very fascinating. All that detail will just add to that. But we already agreed that. I already agreed that this whole thing is very complex. I already agreed that there's a lot of details involved. I already agreed that this is extremely fascinating. If all this data that you bring us would just make it even more fascinating, but we have moved on that point. The fascinating part we agree on. How are you going to go to the next step? Because I think we are a couple of steps still away from the God claim. We're still in the DNA being fascinating claim, which we agree with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
see, right? Now that goes back to what I said earlier. Before you make an argument from design, first you have to prove the designer, or you have to take something that is known to be designed or known to be natural and compare the two to make your argument. We only have one universe, so you can't point to anything in the universe as being natural or designed if you're going to claim there's a designer for the entire universe. That leaves you with the only option of first proving a designer, or in this case, first proving that some entity, whether you call it God or a spirit or whatever, created DNA if you're going to claim that DNA can only be designed. So you've got to start with the designer first. You can't work backwards, you got to work forwards for an argument for design to work. Does that make sense?
That's interesting. I mean,
yeah.
I think to you it does, but I guess that's just the way. That's your bias.
Joseph, not ours.
Well,
do you agree?
Let me try this. So we have two things. And we have a new thing in front of us. How would you go about proving this new thing in front of us was designed or natural? How would you do that?
Well, what they would call reverse engineering, which is something we do all the time with a lot of different things. You want to find out what is this thing. It's like when I was a child, I look in the sky, oh, why are there clouds? It's a very rudimentary.
We do that with leaves, and we know that leaves are naturally designed. We do the same thing with cars. We know cars are designed, or leaves are natural, cars are not. They're designed. So we can reverse engineer both of those. That's not really good enough, is it?
Well, if you're going back to the source and the root of the thing, to me, that seemed like that would be relevant, because you can't start from, it starts from seeing the thing and then reverse, and then going back behind and breaking it down to see how did this, what created that thing that made that. Okay, there was this car part that went here, that went there, this came together in such a way. It's not just the whole part that we see, it's something else behind it. There was a creator behind the car, there was a creator behind the body, there was something. Now, where did that creator?
Well, how do you know that there's a creator behind the body? Where is the creator you can point to? I can point to the designers of a car. Where's the designer for a body?
So I'm assuming that you have a kid or two or a few, who knows?
No, I don't have any kids, but that's irrelevant, right? I wasn't created by my parents. My biological parents had sex, and I was a result of that. I was just a transfer of chemicals into the human being I am today. But they didn't design me. Where's the designer?
So you say you're a product of the chemicals that came together as a result of the sperm and the egg. I personally would give you much more credit than that. I think you're much more than just the chemicals.
I don't care. I care about evidence. And you're not answering the question. The question I had, where I have evidence for a designer for a car, where's my evidence for a designer of a body?
So you, from my opinion, my logical thinking, as best as I can tell you right now, you are the evidence of your mother and father's creation.
No, I'm not. I'm evidence that my parents had sex, right? And I'm not asking about creation. I'm asking about designer. Where is the designer?
You know, that's a question. That's a great question. And that's,
I agree.
What? So Jim, just real quick, that's the question that we all ask ourselves. And that's not, as a human being, just like yourself, I can't, as much as I would like to, I can't give you the answer to that question. That's a question even
okay, so let me ask you this question. If you do not have evidence for a designer, is it rational to believe in things for which you have no evidence?
Well, I think the rational aspect would be your own existence, just your own awareness of yourself.
You didn't answer the question.
Why do you
didn't answer the question. Is it rational to believe in things without sufficient good evidence?
It's not rational. But if you're making an assumption that I don't believe what I believe because of lack of evidence, then that would be false, because I can.
So let's go back. You don't have evidence of a designer, and let you claim that the human body was designed and that the universe was designed, but you have no evidence for the designer, which means you don't have sufficient good evidence to believe in a designer, right?
No. No, not at all.
You just, all right.
Evidence of.
No, you see, again, so we've been over this ground. We're not going to do it again because we're at the end of the call at 6:30. We're half an hour over. And here's what you need to do. You need to come up with good evidence for a designer, and you need to go back and listen to this call and realize that you have agreed that you do not have sufficient good evidence for a designer. And yet you claim there is one, and you believe there is one. And then you said, no, that's not rational to believe in things for which you do not have sufficient good evidence. And I agree with that too. But you need to go back and you look at your evidence, and you need to calmly and realize why, when it comes to an argument from design, you need to prove a designer first. Anyway, thanks for the call. Call back again. It was a great call.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thanks, Joseph.
All right.
And folks, just remember the prompt for this week is, why is Satan competing for God's followers? Get your answer in the comments, and it might be read at the beginning of next week's episode. Armin, any closing comments?
No, I just I just really wish Joseph would answer my question, because he just kept on repeating the same claim over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what is it about repeating claims that people think that it makes their argument stronger by just repeating their claims.
Yeah, and I tried a different approach than you did by taking it to the general, argument from design, and he still seems to be unable to realize that he had no designer. He couldn't prove a designer exists, and which means you can't make the argument from design. You can't just point at a thing and go, that thing had a designer, without showing the designer and how they designed it, which we can do with cars, can't do with the universe. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for being here today, everyone. Thank you to Armin for being here. Always a pleasure. Love working with you. Our next live episode is 4:30 p.m. Central every Sunday. And next week, I think it's next week, the weekend of the eclipse, we'll be live. So hopefully we'll see everybody in the studio in person, and that would be awesome. Thanks so much. Goodbye.
Don't forget to like the stream. Don't forget to like the stream. Don't forget to like the stream. And once the stream is over, leave a comment. Yeah, and subscribe. And leaving comments, really helps the channel grow. So please do that as well. It's free.
Thanks so much, and good night.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's setting up your business, what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your life.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.